What is up, guys? My name's Droven. I'm back today with some more Minecraft and Reddit stories. In today's video, we are hitting the mines because boy's tired of iron. I need some diamonds. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as I've got a pretty good story for you today. It's unlike any story I've read on this channel yet. Without further ado, here is the story. It's called, I work as a professional corpse double for billionaire families. I think my current client isn't planning on letting me wake up. Yeah, that's terrifying. I am not an actor. Actors need an audience. I need the opposite, to be anonymous. My official title is Statistic Logistics Specialist. In practice, I am a corpse double. The job exists for a practical reason. In billionaire families, the body of a recently deceased patriarch or matriarch is worth more than gold bars. There are theft attempts for DNA extraction, enemies who want to desecrate the corpse for revenge, and the press that would pay millions for a photo of the dead face. So, the family cremates or freezes the real body minutes after death, and I get into the coffin for the public wake. Sorry to disappoint you, but every famous person you've seen at a televised funeral wasn't the real famous person. I get paid to lie down, motionless, while strangers cry, scream, and occasionally try to steal the cufflinks from my suit. Usually, the rulebook is 5 pages long. For the Duval family job, the manual I received had 50. I was in the prep room, the mansion's refrigerated basement, naked, shivering, while the technical supervisor, a man named Mr. Reese, applied a layer of cold silicone over my chest. Pay attention, Matthias, Reese said, avoiding eye contact. The Duvals are traditionalists. They do not accept failure. The pay is triple the standard, but the rules of physical engagement are absolute. Did you memorize section 4? I did, I replied, with my teeth chattering. Repeat it mentally now to refresh. I took a deep breath, focusing on the muscle memory from training, and I went over the rules. Rule 1. Total thermal control. The corpse generates no heat. You will undergo a 40-minute ice immersion bath before the event to lower your skin temperature to 28 degrees Celsius. During the wake, if anyone touches your hand or face, they must not feel the warmth of the living. Under no circumstances are you to sweat. If you feel a drop of sweat forming on your forehead, you must trigger the micro switch in your palm so the coffin's cooling system releases gaseous nitrogen. The sweat is proof of life, and life is prohibited in this precinct. Reese picked up a syringe. I extended my arm, the needle went in. It wasn't a sedative, it was a peripheral neuromuscular blocker. Rule number 2, the block. Grief generates unpredictable reactions in the guests. They might scream in your ear, spit in your face, or stroke your hair. The human instinct in these cases is to react. A twitch of the eyelid, a tremor of the lip, a change in respiratory rate. This is unacceptable. The drug administered will paralyze your facial muscles. You will not be able to blink, even if a fly lands on your eye. You will not be able to swallow, even if saliva accumulates. You must let the saliva drool out of the corner of your mouth if necessary. A drooling corpse is acceptable. A swallowing corpse is a fraud. I felt my face get heavy. I tried to smile and I couldn't. My eyelids felt like lead. Gosh, this sounds terrifying if you're a claustrophobic person. Great, looking good, Reese murmured. They're going to use the sarcophagus IV model coffin. False bottom for ventilation, but ventilation is minimal. Remember rule 3. He helped me into the suit. Italian wool, heavy, hot, in an environment where I needed to keep my skin ice cold. The discomfort was part of the job. Rule 3. The invisible breathing protocol. The chest must not rise. Diaphragmatic breathing is mandatory. You must expand your stomach downward, compressing the viscera, never the rib cage. The rhythm must be 4 cycles per minute. If someone lays their head on your chest to cry, which is common, you must hold your breath immediately and keep it held until the individual leaves. The required record is 3 minutes. If you pass out from lack of oxygen, do not worry. Fainting maintains the illusion. Waking up gasping is what breaks the contract. I was placed in the coffin. The smell was strong. Lilies and industrial formaldehyde sprayed on my clothes to mask the scent of the living. Deodorant, soap, breath. Reese leaned over me. And the most important rule, Matthias, Rule 4. Go over it in your mind. The Duvals have a history of violent inheritance disputes. Rule 4. The proof. It is possible that a family member may doubt the debt. They call this the proof. Someone may try to inflict physical pain to see if the body reacts. Hard pinches, twisting fingers, or superficial piercing with pins. You are wearing a second skin of latex over your hands and face, which should prevent bleeding from the shallow cuts. But it does not prevent pain. If you are wounded, your heart rate will rise. The monitor on your wrist will vibrate. You must use mental dissociation techniques. If it hurts, you are not there. You are wood, wax. If you scream or if you pull your arm away, family security will not intervene to save you. They will intervene to eliminate the fraud. Ready? All good. I've done this enough times not to be nervous. I managed to whisper, my mouth half numb. The wake lasts 6 hours. Good luck. The lid was closed only halfway. I was taken to the gold room. The horror of being a coffin double isn't supernatural. It's the horror of objectification. You are there, hearing everyone, feeling everything, but treated as an object. People speak secrets in front of you because they think dead ears don't listen. The first hour was quiet, stifled crying, violin music. I kept my breath at 4 cycles. The chill from the ice bath was still in my bones, which helped maintain the temperature. Then, the eldest son arrived, Rogero Duval. I smelled the cheap whiskey and cigar before I heard him. He leaned over the coffin. Old bastard, he whispered. He placed his hand on my neck, his hot, sweaty hand. He squeezed. It wasn't a caress. He was closing his hand around my windpipe. I felt the cartilage in my neck pop. Air stopped passing through. Rule 4. Passivity in the face of aggression. My brain screamed. React, get his hand off. But the contract screamed louder. You are wood, you are wax. I stayed motionless. The muscle blocker helped prevent me from thrashing. My eyelids didn't even flicker. Rogero squeezed for 10 interminable seconds. He wanted to be sure his father was dead, or perhaps he wanted to finish the job just in case he wasn't. He let go. At least he's cold, he grumbled and walked away. I drew air in slowly through my diaphragm. It hurt. My throat was bruised, but I was dead, at least success. 2 hours later, a young woman, the granddaughter perhaps, she was weeping copiously. She laid her head on my chest. Rule 3, invisible breathing protocol. I stopped breathing immediately. The weight of her head made it difficult. Her perfume was cloying, too sweet. It made me nauseous. She stayed there. 1 minute, my lungs began to burn. 2 minutes, my peripheral vision began to darken. My God, it sucks not to breathe. She kept crying, sobbing, shaking my body slightly. Get off me, I thought. Get off now. 3 minutes, I was at my limit. The reflex to inhale was almost overcoming my will. I was going to gasp. I was going to suck in air with a loud snore and ruin everything. I felt a spasm in my diaphragm. At that moment, someone pulled her away. Come, dear, let Grandpa rest. She stood up. I waited for her to move 2 steps away before releasing the air in a razor-thin stream and pulling oxygen in slowly. My head was spinning. I was dizzy, but I always thought already lying down helps a lot in these moments. But the worst was yet to come. Rule 5, the rule that wasn't in the printed manual but was spoken by Mr. Reese just before I went in. A verbal rule. Rule 5, the refusal of food. The family follows an ancient tradition, the last communion. They will place a gold coin in your mouth. Depending on how they place it, being supine, your body's reflex might be to swallow. Do not swallow. The coin is from the 18th century. It is worth more than your life. If you swallow by reflex, we will have to cut your stomach open right there to retrieve it. The widow, Dona Constancia, approached. A 90-year-old woman in a wheelchair. She asked to be lifted up. She opened my mouth with fingers that felt like dry claws. But the lady didn't put in a coin. She put in a paper, a small, folded, bitter piece of paper. I felt the paper on my tongue. The saliva, which I couldn't swallow, began to dissolve the paper. I tasted chemicals. Strong, bitter. This wasn't ordinary paper. Was it LSD, cyanide, some ritualistic hallucinogen? Do not swallow. But the paper was melting rapidly. The liquid pooled at the back of my mouth. I tried to close my throat to block the passage, but the blocker made my muscles useless. There was no reflex left to save me. Gravity simply took over. I felt the bitter liquid slide passively down my open pipe. I didn't swallow it. It simply invaded me. Donna Constantia smiled. She leaned close to my ear. I know you aren't Arthur, she whispered. I froze. Arthur had a scar behind his ear. You don't. She stroked my paralyzed face. But it doesn't matter. The contract says we need a body for the crematorium. And Arthur ran off with his mistress to the Cayman Islands. My heart stopped. The dead man wasn't dead. The dead man was alive. And I wasn't a double. I was the replacement. Enjoy the tea, boy, she said. It's a total muscle relaxant. It will stop your heart in 20 minutes. The doctor will certify natural death right then and there, and we will cremate you before the effect wears off. She moved away. Emergency rule. There was no rule for this. Panic exploded. I needed to get out of here. I tried to get up, but the drug from the paper, rule number 5 violated, was mixing with the blocker from rule 2. My arms didn't respond. My legs didn't respond. I was conscious. I saw the lights of the chandelier. I heard the fake crying of the relatives, but I couldn't move a millimeter. I looked to the corner of the room. Mr. Reese was there, the agency's supervisor, who was looking at me. He gave a discreet sign with his head. A sad nod. He knew. The agency knew. The extreme risk level wasn't about security. It was about sacrifice. The triple payment wasn't for the inconvenience. It was the life insurance paid in advance to my family. I felt my heart slowing down. Air began to run out. The diaphragm stopped obeying voluntary commands. Automatic breathing was failing. Rule number 3 was now permanent. The family doctor approached with a stethoscope. He placed the cold metal on my chest. He heard my heart failing, fighting, stopping. He looked at the widow. Death is confirmed. Donna Constantia. We can proceed with the closing. I wanted to scream. I was screaming inside. I'm alive. This is murder. But Rule 2 worked perfectly. My face was a mask of absolute peace. No tears came out because my tear ducts were dry from the dehydration of Rule 1. The funeral home employee came. He took the coffin lid. I looked at the ceiling of the gold room one last time. It was beautiful. Paintings of angels, angels looking down with indifference. The lid came down, darkness came, the sounds of latches closing. I heard the muffled command outside. Take it to the oven, maximum temperature. The family is in a hurry. I felt the coffin being lifted, the gentle swaying, the nausea. My heart gave one last strong beat and stopped. But my mind stayed lit. The brain is the last thing to shut down. I still felt. I felt when the coffin was placed on the conveyor belt. I felt the heat, the real heat. Not the sun's hand, but the fire. The wood began to crack. And the last thing I thought about as the temperature rose to violate Rule 1 definitively was the rule book. There was a final page. A page I didn't read because it was glued shut. Now I understood the title of the document. It wasn't safety protocol. It was disposal protocol. I followed all the rules, and I was employee of the month. That's one of those stories that I just kind of wish there were more to. Like, it was a really good, scary story, but like, God, you could not pay me $1 million to do this job for this exact reason. Like, you are completely just in the hand. Your life is in somebody's hands completely. And yeah, no, I'm good on that. The next story for today is called "The Guy Making My Coffee Just Frown Blue Screened When I Told Him a Joke." It wasn't even a funny joke, just an awkward attempt at breaking the tension while he made my coffee. "There's not enough foam in the world to satisfy me," I said, hinting that he was putting way too much foam in my drink. He was cute, just out of college and pretentious looking cute. I expected him to roll his eyes or completely ignore me. The guy's warm brown gaze found mine, eyes seeming to narrow, almost like he was trying to understand what I said. I watched him mull the joke in his brain, inclining his head. I thought he'd laugh. What I didn't expect was for the joke to completely break him. He smiled, and I noticed his smile wasn't really a smile, just his lips widening without any real emotion. I don't get it. "Oh boy." "The foam," I said, trying to laugh at my own stupid joke. Like I meant that all the foam in the world wouldn't be able to satisfy me because you were. I pointed to my overflowing cup, which was more foam than coffee, kind of going crazy with it. I could feel my cheeks starting to redden when his head tilted to the side, strands of light brown curls sipping from his cap. "It's just a joke," I said hurriedly. "Sorry, it wasn't funny." His lip curled, "But I don't get it." His response reminded me of a confused kid or senile adult. "You don't have to," I said. "Sorry, ignore me." The coffee guy nodded slowly as he made my coffee. I could tell he was still trying to wrap his head around it, using serious brain neurons to solve it, like my joke was a puzzle. Who was this guy? Thank God I was the only customer. "It doesn't matter," I said, and threw in another joke to hopefully make it better. I can't remember the exact joke, something related to coffee. I expected at least a sympathy laugh from him, but insisted halfway through, trying to wrap his head around that joke too, his mouth curling, eyes widening, his hands kind of froze, and I swore I saw him jolt. It was noticeable, with the way his body suddenly jerked, like he had just suffered an electric shock. I opened my mouth to ask if he was okay, but then his fingers still grasped around the rim of my coffee cup, clenched into a fist before coming apart, and it slipped from his hands. I jumped, but the guy didn't react to the coffee cup splintering on impact, scalding hot coffee searing his hands and pooling on the floor. For a moment, he was completely still, before something seemed to sever in his expression. His eyes flickered, jaws clenching, before all of him seemed to go limp. I don't think I can describe this as anything but a complete blue screen. If looked close enough, I swore I could see the frown flash up in his iris, dull blue light illuminating his pupil. I thought it was some kind of elaborate joke at first, before the guy blinked. His gaze found mine, eyes glowing in almost childlike fright. "What?" He swallowed, his voice throaty and gruff. "What day is it?" The urgency in his expression threw me off. The way he reacted to the sun streaming through the windows, squinting and then shading his eyes. "It's September 9th. I couldn't stop looking at the red welts on his fingers from the coffee, which he could not feel. There was no pain in his expression, only confusion and fear starting to build before erupting. He blinked again, taking a step back. The way he moved was clumsy, like he was drunk. I shouldn't be here. His trembling hands went to his apron, trying and failing to tug it off. Dang, the boy's fingers struggled with the knot. I shouldn't be here. He staggered back, his hand tearing at his hair, muttering the same thing over and over again. I asked what he meant, and the guy, Taz, from his name tag, looked me directly in the eye. "I died last month," he hissed out in a whine, and shivers slowly crept their way down my spine when I noticed the ugly, rugged stitches clumsily holding his brain inside his skull. It was a car crash. I was brain dead, and then I was talking to Mom. She died when I was a baby, and I thought I'd made it to her. I caught frustrated tears in his eyes. But my contract doesn't end until 2009, so I think, his expression twisted, and he ran a hand through his hair. "I think they're keeping me here until it finishes." Taz groaned. I knew their policy was messed up, but this is a whole nother level. His words were tightening my chest. "You're not making sense," I managed to choke out. "What are you talking about?" "I'm dead," he hissed out like I was stupid. "I was in a car wreck with my friends last month. I was in the back, and everything went dark. I was planning on quitting this stupid job, but I died before I could." His slightly hysterical eyes found mine. "Can you help me?" Taz whimpered, his eyes lighting up. "It's got to be 2009 at least, right? It feels like at least a year has gone by. They should let me go now." His lips quirked. "I can join Mom." "Taz," a voice from the back growled, and the boy stiffened up. "Get back to work." "Screw yourself," Taz spoke in a breath, more to himself than his boss. "Dylan," the man addressed him by his second name this time. "What did I just say?" Taz didn't reply. I caught his hand creeping across the counter, fingers wrapping around a splinter of a broken coffee cup. I knew what he was going to do. I could sense it in the way the tendons in his wrist convulsed. He was going to slit his throat right in front of me. I watched him bring the splintered piece up to the flesh of his neck and purposely stabbing it in. Not enough to draw blood, but enough to force himself to continue. The blade kept going, and I found myself paralyzed. With no other customers, it was just me watching this. I waited for him to slice open his neck and finally end it. But the guy wasn't moving, his fingers cinched around the blade. When it sliced through his skin, reddish-black globules pulled down his fingers, sliding in thick rivulets, almost like jelly. "I said," the voice said in a grumble, and Taz's body jolted up once again. Blood ran from his nose in a reddish paste, the stitches in his head springing apart, his whole body seeming to fall apart. I could see that his eyes weren't fully lodged into his skull, skin paper thin. This was not blood I was seeing, or it was, but it was ancient. This was supposed to come from a corpse. The blade slipped from his fingers, and he straightened up, like his puppet strings were being violently tugged. The boss scoffed, and I saw the last slithers of desperation fade from the boy's eyes, replaced with an almost inhuman-like glitter. Get back to work, Taz. I don't pay you to stand around talking." Taz looked confused for a moment, before he responded in a breath, "Yes." "Yes what?" The boss didn't reveal himself. "Yes, sir." Taz spoke with no hesitation. His arms fell to his sides once again, and that light was back in his eyes. A lot brighter, his lips stretching into a wide, vacant smile that only knew how to serve coffee. Already, I could feel myself moving back, knowing I was speaking to nothing but a suit of undead flesh without a soul, puppeteered by invisible strings. The boy's afterlife was working. I forgot about my coffee. I forgot about what I had been doing, that I had work to finish and being late for afternoon class. Because this guy was suddenly at the center of my world, and I wanted to get him and everyone else like him out of there. But how could I do that, realistically? "Would you like anything else?" Taz handed me my coffee, and I took it, my hands trembling. He was too. His body was rejecting the light, lips trying to form words, a cry for help being shoved deep, deep down. I stepped back and turned away from him, and I kept walking until I was out of the door, back into the early fall breeze. I don't know what possessed me to turn around. Maybe I was hoping to catch a glimpse of Taz. Instead, my gaze found another employee. This time, a smiling brunette. When her eyes caught mine, she inclined her head, the sound of her neck snapping, sending shivers down my spine. "Are you okay there?" She spoke to me directly, and I nodded shakily. When she turned around, I saw the bullet wound in her head, a cavernous hole that looked too fresh, like it was recent. I glimpsed splinters of bone sticking to her hair like cat's teeth. I think she noticed and shot me a smile, fixing her bright green hat over dark red curls. The boss came to the front, finally, a 50-something-year-old guy with a face full of wrinkles and a too wide smile. His sweat-stained shirt told me everything I needed to know. "Do you need anything else?" It's like he was challenging me to question the state of his workers. Expect the best from our favorite employee since 2006. The boss slapped Taz's shoulder, laughing heartily, and the boy didn't move. But I did see his head slightly dislodged from his neck, his body going limp once again. Taz's eyes briefly found mine, but he didn't cry out for help, only smiling with his boss, joining in the fake laughing. When another customer came in, he waved cheerily. "Welcome." I left the place after that, but I can't stop thinking about it. If everyone in that place is dead, do they employ the dead, or do their employees coincidentally die? Is there a way to save these people? Because what the hell did I just witness? That was a really interesting one. If you guys went to your favorite coffee shop and everyone serving coffee had like bullet holes in their head and they were all dead and trying to kill themselves, like what would you do? Um, I don't know what I'd do. That's a tough one because I might say I might do one thing, but in real life I might run out of there like this little girl. But anyways, if you made it to the end, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, drop a like and subscribe. If you didn't, I don't know what to tell you. Peace.